PCN is brought to you in part by the following underwriters.
Welcome to PACTV Community News, local stories from Duxbury, Kingston, Pembroke, and Plymouth. This week, we get a tour of the Cordage History Museum in Plymouth, and we get a pond update from Pembroke.
PCN stops into the Kennedy Donovan Center's gala, and we hear a unique film discussion that took place at the Kingston COA.
We learn what life is like for a theater kid in our expose on the Americana Theatre Company.
Doctor's Orders is back with information on summer heat issues, and Treasury Notes with Plymouth County Treasurer gives us more helpful financial information for our lives.
It's going to be a great show, and we start things off at Kingston's Indian Pond Country Club. The Kennedy Donovan Center Early Intervention is a specialized program certified by the Department of Public Health that provides services to young children who have or are at risk for developmental delays from birth to 3 years old. The group recently held a fundraiser so they can continue to provide their services, and we spoke with their director.
This is Kennedy Donovan Early Intervention. We are here as a fundraiser for the families on the South Shore that we service. We service children birth to 3, and we have a presenting sponsor this year, Atlas Innovative Services, and they've been with us for 4 years now. We have a lot of community partners here tonight as tea sponsors and also coming to dinner. We started at 10:30 this morning with a registration. We registered our 115 golfers. Our goal is more, as much as we can. We're shooting for $15,000. We usually get around that. This is the 14th year we've done this, so we get close to that. And everything goes back into the program, nothing goes outside. We are a nonprofit organization, and we do look for extra funds, obviously, so that we can help those families a little more than what we could do normally. The golfers are out right now. We've got about 115 golfers that joined us for this event. Most of them will come back in for dinner, and we will have a silent auction in conjunction with that dinner for the fundraiser. The people that come are many of our sponsors, and there are also people in the community. A lot of the families that we serve bring in foursomes to golf. What we do as service coordinators and early intervention specialists is we go into homes and we help educate families on how they can help their own children. We're not therapists, although we have lots of backgrounds in different things, but we educate the families so that they can take that information and use it on vacation, anywhere they go. So they don't need us. We're not the important thing. I always say we're kind of the GPS. You have to tell us where to go, but you have to drive the bus. So we hope that people leave here tonight with a little understanding of how difficult it is and how much the people who work in early intervention really provide to families and what an important service they do.
One weekend every year, the Pembroke Watershed Association hosts a pond cleanup, and every year there's always room for more volunteers. We spoke with the association's president to get an update on all of the ponds in town.
One of our biggest concerns is to make sure that our ponds are kept fresh and clean at all times. So the ponds that we are involved with right now are Furnace, Oldham, Hobbamock, Stetson, and Little Sandy. And each one of those ponds has a pond captain, which we use as a volunteer to try to get people out. It is just one weekend that we do a pond cleanup. We hope we can get more people out, but as you can see, it's not always the way we would like it. We may get 2 or 3 volunteers, and that's about it for each pond. So basically what we want to do is we want to get rid of any of the trash, anything that fishermen have left, or any kind of debris that's all around the ponds. We don't want that going into the pond or, seeping in or, just ending up there, especially in areas where kids are swimming or people are boating, those types of things. So we basically focus mainly on the pond edges and any large debris or anything that we feel needs to come out of the pond. And we've got a large number of ponds, probably some of the largest number of ponds in a town, and we want to make sure that they are kept pristine and that we are taking care of them. We're the stewards of these ponds for the town, and we want to make sure that they are pristine and that they are taken care of, and try to get people involved with that process as well. So one of our main concerns now is making sure that we do in fact keep the ponds treated. This pond was just treated for blue-green algae along with furnace. Hobbamock is still being treated for the hydrilla. There are still areas of hydrilla on Hobbamock, so that's a concern that we have. And the next step is the town is looking to dredge furnace. So that would be a positive step as far as cleaning up the pond and making it better for recreation. And so that's our goal, is to just keep plugging away and making sure that we have clean, great ponds for all kinds of recreation.
Most people nowadays know the Cordage Commerce Center as the up-and-coming place for businesses on the north side of Plymouth. What many may not realize is that Cordage Park has a rich history as the industrial powerhouse for the area for the better part of 2 centuries. In fact, if you go inside, there's an actual museum to the park's history. So that's what we did, and we spoke with the museum's curator.
Plymouth Cordage reached its high point around the First World War, when they were employed just under 2,000 people, when the whole town had 12,000 people, men, women, and children. So it was a significant industry in the town, which was big on industry anyways, because they had shoe factories, tack factories, cloth factories, many factories, but Plymouth Cordage was the biggest. In fact, it was the world's largest rope manufacturer for years and years, up until its demise. The artifacts that are around in the 2 buildings, mainly this building, mill number 1 and number 3, which is next door, were acquired over the years. Some of them never left the building. There's a drill press, there's a lathe, there's a number of things that are in the buildings. One of the biggest things we have are 2 compressed air locomotives. They were part of a fleet of 8 locomotives and 40 flat cars that ran around the park with almost 5 miles of track. They went in and out of all the buildings. They had to run on compressed air because no spark could happen without an explosion in the buildings because of so much fiber in the air. So it was kind of a unique design, one of a few that are left. We found 2 of them up in New Hampshire and did a fundraising project and got them back at Cordage. Also in the hallways are a number of pictures that people go around and realize that that was their grandfather, great uncle, whatever, and kind of gives them a feeling of continuity. The biggest problem we have is that we're only open on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays from noon to 4. So a lot of people are in here during the week, but the museum isn't open typically. Everything we do is volunteer. We have no funding from anybody. So I'm in between projects right now, and when I'm not doing anything, I leave the door open and people walk in, and they're always, well, I went by because I had to go to the doctors or whatever, but you're always closed. I said, well, come in and volunteer, we'll be open. But that doesn't happen too often. But there is a good response.
The Kingston Council on Aging hosted a screening of a documentary called Sense the Wind. The film follows the lives of 4 blind and visually impaired sailors in their quests to compete and win in national boat races and regattas. We were able to speak with the film's director to get some insight into what it took to put this production together.
Well, this is a film that follows 4 blind sailors over a period of 4 years. And these sailors are blind and visually impaired. and they are striving to race in national regattas and then make it to the World Championships in Japan. So this follows them over a period of time, both on the water and off the water. When I started the film, I really didn't know where it was going to go. And in documentary, it's like life. Life unfolds, people's lives change, and you really don't know where it's going to go. You don't know the ending with a character-based film like this. It's not an event-based reportage kind of documentary about sailing. So in this case, I had to just intuitively follow it and jump in and film wherever it seemed like that was an important moment to catch, whether it made it in or not, and so much of it didn't, as happens in filming. But I was able to kind of stay with it and follow a real dramatic story curve that I would never have expected with one of the characters. And so it kind of kept me in the game much longer, but I knew I needed to follow this thread and see what evolved, and it created this incredible story curve that I would not have thought of. I started promoting and pitching for filmmaker screenings as part of the beginning of outreach. And I felt that it was important to take the film not only to yacht clubs, to sailing centers, but also to libraries, to take it to retirement homes, rehab centers, disability organizations. So I've really made an effort to kind of contact different organizations and libraries and see who is interested. Really the takeaway that I find across the board, no matter where I am, is everyone comes out feeling empowerment, and they realize that I can do more and everyone can do more than they think they can, and that they can adapt to change. I have DVDs that are available
Theater has been in existence since ancient Greece. For something to have lasted that long, it must be doing something right. Confidence, teamwork, even people skills are just some of the benefits to being exposed to theater. We met up with Americana Theatre Company to talk about their recent expansion into their youth theater education programming and why it's a good idea to start them young.
Let's go backstage, my friends!
Americana Theatre Company as a whole started in 2011. And 2 years ago, we decided we wanted to make it a year-round company and incorporate an education program. So my husband, David, and myself, we moved from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, out to Massachusetts and started Studio Americana. Studio Americana, we definitely are an experiential learning facility. We want to give access to an experience to kids that they don't necessarily get at their age at schools. But at Americana, we feel like it's very important to give these opportunities to kids, and we are very much trying to get kids to get out of the box because they aren't given that many opportunities to allow themselves to get out of the box. And this is one of those opportunities where they're allowed to think out of the box and become creators of art.
Well, the benefits to being a part of theater, especially for children, it extends well beyond arts. Major companies nowadays, they're looking for the personality traits and the business traits that we're teaching here. They want their new hires out of college, out of wherever, they want them to be able to speak clearly, to be able to get up in front of a crowd, to be comfortable in any sort of social situation. Those are the sorts of people that excel in business, in the business world. So while the arts are incredibly important and there's amazing value in them, there are also many aspects, just personality-wise, seeing these kids grow and come out of their shells and be able to interact. And some people don't realize that working in theater, you're really working as a team.
When you get up on that stage and there's tons of people looking or watching you, that just shows how brave you are of getting up there and showing your face to a bunch of people you probably don't know, and that you need to be brave and you need to really be confident about yourself.
It makes me very proud to see that they have the courage to get up there and act and sing and move around and dance in front of different people, especially people that are strangers, people they don't know very well. Just to have the courage to get up there and do that. It's very proud. It makes me feel very good.
Don't you want to be eating food like me? Don't you want to be cool? Don't you want to be ruthless and rough and cool?
Younger students seem to really get drawn into the creative storytelling and creative play. First time on stage for many of them, getting a chance to break those walls of stage fright down, which is very, very important, especially as you get older, you spend more time in front of people. We also know that very often when there's cuts to come to public schools, arts are often some of the first cuts that come, and yet there's an incredible value to arts education. Culturally, I mean, almost all of the studies that we do of our reading, writing, and arithmetic actually come out of literature and the arts. We learn about government through some of the stuff in Roman culture that came out of their pottery and come out of that. So arts education is so valuable for our current culture. And because it's one of the first things cut, we want to make sure that our new generation sees and understands and appreciates the value of artistry and the value of culture making.
Nice and slow when you're walking. If you have someone you're walking down an aisle.
Doctor's Orders is back with information from BID Plymouth on how heat affects your health.
I'm Dr. Jagminis, and I'm here for PCN's Doctor's Orders, and we're going to talk today about heat illness and the various aspects of heat illness. So in general, it can affect anybody from little kids, young children, to adults, and especially our elderly. And it's essentially three different things you have to be aware of. One is there's a mild case, there's a severe case, and one that really requires hospitalization. So the mild one is we call heat illness or heat cramps, where basically you just have some fatigue, you feel a little tired, maybe you have some muscle cramps, but other than that, nothing much else is going on. So that is just simply get out of the hot sun, get into a cool area, hydrate yourself well, and rest. Then there's a more severe form where you start having actually more symptoms and maybe more headache. You may have some nausea, vomiting, you may feel more tired, maybe even feel dizzy. That's a more concerning part, but the way you differentiate that from the most severe form is that you're still sweating. You're still going to be sweating, your skin may be a little bit clammy, but your temperature, your body temperature itself is going to be normal, and your ability to think and behave or interact and work is normal. The most life-threatening case is heat stroke. So if you think about it, heat stroke sounds bad. It is bad. That's where you basically are, you could start having seizures. You won't have any more sweating, so your skin will be completely dry and hot, and that's when your body temperature goes above 104 degrees, so 104. That's an absolute medical emergency. The concerning thing is you can go very quickly from just mild heat exhaustion to heat stroke very, very quickly. And you see that again in the very young children and in the elderly for the most part. Or people that are doing really heavy work or laborers outside who don't take enough breaks to cool down and hydrate. So anyone that's really starting to get dizzy, getting a headache, some nausea, and they're sweating, those are the people you really got to get them cool down and hydrated so they don't go into heat stroke. This is Dr. Jagminis. Thanks for watching. This is PCN's Doctor's Orders.
We're so fortunate to have back on set with us Tom O'Brien, who is the Plymouth County Treasurer. We're going to talk a lot about county government today because there's a lot of things that county government does, and people don't understand. I still don't quite understand the reach of county government and the purpose for it. So if you could start with, what is county government in terms of the whole United States, and then more regionally, what is county government here?
So you've hit the nail on the head. It's a regional form of government that we have around the country. And it's fascinating, Julie, as you travel around the country and you go to different states, you recognize that counties are very predominant in those states. Maryland, Pennsylvania, Florida. In fact, people in those states identify what county they live in more than what town they live in. You were making a great point before we began the show that election results around the country come in by county.
Right.
They don't come in by individual
no,
town.
they don't.
That would be crazy. It's a great starting point because if you think about that, if you tried to report the election results from every single town, you'd be up all night.
Right.
We'd never know who was going to be the next president of the United States.
Right.
And so that's a very good example of how county government makes things easier. It's a regional form of government where communities get together and effectuate economies of scale.
Okay.
And so what's happened here in Massachusetts, because we are one of the original colonies, and our towns are very parochial, every town does almost everything and provides almost every service to its communities, and that comes with a cost. What's fascinating to me and what I see as a trend in a wave of the future, because I do believe regionalization is the wave of the future, is communities are going to be pressed with a choice. Are they going to be able to continue to provide these services at an increased cost to their taxpayers? Or are they going to partner with their friends in their neighboring communities to provide those same services for cheaper? It just makes sense. We all understand that if people partner together, you can make things cheaper and provide that service.
Like the whole idea of the regional high schools. Take towns, put them together, and you can offer way more advantages to the students in a regional high school than sometimes you can in a smaller local high school.
And it's an excellent analogy, too, because there was a trend away from the regional high school system for the longest period of time. We're seeing actually that trend reverse itself back to, well, maybe if we partner with another community. I think we all are, of course, familiar with Silver Lake, but look at Whitman-Hanson and what they've been able to do. That high school is a lot nicer because they're together than if each individual community had to do it on their own. And think of how much you save in building one high school instead of two. So there are savings that inure directly back to the taxpayer, to the town, and to the students. And then there's so much more that they could provide.
And not everything can be done on a regional level, obviously. But what are some of the most prevalent categories that really work regionally?
Well, and we're letting communities make that decision and let us know what they need help with and where we can help. The biggest thing and where we see the most immediate growth will be on bulk purchasing. So individual communities begin to purchase different items, whether it's supplies or vehicle bids. And in fact, we have and run one of the biggest vehicle bid programs in the country here in Plymouth County. So we have the Plymouth County Municipal Vehicle Bid. We go out and put that bid out for with all the manufacturers for municipal vehicles. And then communities choose to participate in those bids and effectuate savings. So we have more big savings. Yes.
Right. Okay.
We're saving our communities millions of dollars. If they participate in our
during
bid.
bulk purchasing.
That's
and
correct.
that's because of the contracts that you've negotiated.
That's correct. We put out an RFP, we get the bids back, but because they know they're bidding on 300 communities.
Versus 3.
Versus 3 or 1. They lower their price.
Of course they do.
What's been fascinating to us is that it's communities outside Massachusetts that are now participating in our bid.
And they're allowed to do that.
And they are allowed to do that.
Great.
Absolutely, because we're there to serve a regional component. And so we have communities from Rhode Island and Connecticut and Vermont and New Hampshire that are participating in our little municipal vehicle bid.
That's awesome. Now, you also run the Registry of Deeds.
So the Registry of Deeds is a county-run operation. We have the best Registrar of Deeds, John Buckley.
Yes, he's
I think
wonderful.
we have the best Registry of Deeds, but what's fascinating is it's the oldest Registry of Deeds in America. Our slogan is America's first Registry of Deeds. When you think about it, we have the first recorded documents of land transactions in the United States of America. How fascinating is that?
Oh, and I'm sure we could do a movie about that. What's in there? What's in there, I'm sure, is pretty amazing. So towns that don't belong to a county registry of deeds, they have to have their own town registry of deeds?
So what happened, unfortunately, here in Massachusetts is in the 90s, a number of the counties suffered financial challenges, and we could talk about that and some of the reasons that happened. However, there were 7 pretty strong counties that still exist and that remain as counties. In the rest of the Commonwealth, those counties were abolished. Those registry of deeds were taken over by the state. But what we're finding is that the county-run registry of deeds have 2 advantages. One, they're able to innovate quicker. because they're just focused on the operation of that one
Sure,
county. So what we found in Plymouth County, our Register of Deeds and his team, they're doing technological innovation faster than the state is able to do it.
Sure.
We're checking out new ideas quicker, and we're also a little more responsive to our constituency.
Yep.
So we've opened satellite offices in Brockton and in Rockland. They're not doing that in other regions because we realize in Plymouth, that's great for people that live in Plymouth and the surrounding communities.
Yeah.
But if you live over in Abington or if you live in Hull, that's a long trip to get to Plymouth. So it's a little easier to get to Rockland or to Brockton.
Right. So you're providing that service.
We are
on satellite.
indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
Another thing you do is you own. You run and own the courthouses, right?
With three of them in the Commonwealth.
You own the land and the buildings themselves.
We do indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
So you rent them out to
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay.
They've not proven to be the best tenant necessarily. They don't pay, although they're getting
full
better.
market rate.
They're not paying full market rate, and they don't pay on time, but they're getting better.
Okay.
And yeah, so we have the Wareham District Court, we have the Hingham District Court, and Brockton Superior Court.
Okay.
And those buildings are, the Brockton Superior Court, it goes back to the 1800s.
Right.
Beautiful old building that has been county owned. When you think about it, courts were run by the counties before being run by the state and taken over by the state in the early 70s.
Right.
So we maintain those courthouses for use of all of the Plymouth County residents. The state has been a better tenant, but that's one thing that we can do. And it's fascinating as the state is looking at closing courthouses around the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Why? Because they need to save money.
Right.
Where they're not looking to close courthouses are in those areas that have active county government.
Yep.
Because we've been able to keep those courthouses a little more functional and making sure they serve the needs of our constituents.
And the county mindset is always to do things as efficiently as possible with as few as people as possible, I would assume.
We have to.
Right.
Because we don't generate a lot of revenue. We don't have taxing authority per se. We do get an assessment from our member communities, but it's a very small part of our budget. Most of it is generated by the work we do. So the work that's being done at the Registry of Deeds, we collect revenue there, although the state still gets a vast majority of that. We could talk about that on another show. But it's the work product that we put together, the vehicle bids, the bulk purchasing.
Okay.
So the services that we provide, we effectuate economies of scale, and that allows us to generate a little bit of revenue for the county.
Great.
So we are able to be a little bit more efficient.
Okay. Unfortunately, our time is just about up.
I can't believe that.
I know. It's almost 8 minutes have gone by. So bottom line is, county government is an augmentation, really, of local governments, and a place where local governments can have economies of scale in purchasing power and in services, power of services. Correct?
Absolutely correct. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, all right.
And I think what we want communities to do, the folks that are watching this show, if you're active in your community and you're seeing a service that's threatened because the town just can't afford to provide it any longer, the first instinct isn't to think of, oh, maybe we should see if Plymouth County could do this.
Yeah.
Because if your community is suffering that challenge, I guarantee you a neighboring community is facing the same challenge.
Sure.
And so whether it's the sky, it's limitless what we could do.
Right.
But if you're seeing something that you want to be provided, maybe think of coming to Plymouth County government.
County government is your friend.
There
you
we like
go.
to think so.
That's our watchword. Okay, thank you. We will have you back and discuss a more narrow subject next time about what you provide.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to talk about the finances and some of the things we're
we'll
doing
do that.
there.
Okay,
Because
great.
I'm the treasurer.
That's right. And that's why this is Treasury Notes.
We should talk about
with
finances.
Tom O'Brien. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're so glad you joined us tonight for these local stories. If you want to see any episode again, you can go to PACTV's Prime channel on our website, and we're also on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on social media as well for more information. We will see you in a week for more local stories.